Now, the thing about the attack on Pearl Harbor is that, as I mentioned, um, the United States went essentially overnight from being isolationist and neutral to fully in full support of the war. Okay, and one of the things that we need to really try to imagine is that this period in American history is probably the only period in American history where almost everybody was unified. Okay, because it was there was a national sense that the whole country was threatened, and that it was the patriotic duty of every American to do what they could to support this war. Okay, and so America, essentially, it was almost like this peer pressure that was created, where if you weren't in favor of the war, you were an enemy, right? You get what I'm saying, okay? And here's what I want you to contrast that with, okay? Contrast that with the fact that the United States has been at war in Asia since before you guys were born, okay? And most of us don't even know about it. We have really little to know. We all know that there's troops in Afghanistan. We think there might be troops elsewhere in the Middle East, right? And there are troops all over Africa that most of us don't even know about, right? But the point of it all is that America has been fighting wars that we're not involved in. It's certainly not a total war. What's a total war?
Isn't it like war between every nation of the world? Or
No,
Involvement of the
it,
people.
exactly. It's the whole nation against the whole nation, right? So in World War II, when we were talking about fighting the war, everybody was involved. Everybody was rationed. Little kids were out picking up scrap metal, and people were donating their bacon grease, right, to help the war effort. You see what I'm saying? Everybody's involved. Okay, and you can't imagine that today, right? I mean, we could look at what happened after 9/11, which many of you probably don't remember at all, right? But after 9/11, Americans were unified for about 3 days, and then America divided itself up again, right? Americans divided themselves up again. Okay, so this idea of creating this unity based on a threat to the United States is something that's kind of unique to World War II. All right, you guys are with me? Questions, comments about that?
Um,
Okay, so now
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. Did we see the same level of like anti-German sentiment during World War II as we did in World War One?
Not as much, but one of the reasons why was because many of the people who were descended from Germans had changed their names. Remember that the only way you could actually tell somebody was German was by their name. So many of the people who had been harassed during World War One had changed their family names to something that was more anglicized, and the result of that then was that it's much more difficult to identify who's German. You see what I'm saying? But it wasn't hard for them to identify who was Japanese. You see what I'm saying? Because there's a visible characteristics, right? Does that make sense? So then the answer is that there wasn't as much anti-German sentiment because there wasn't as much of a visible presence of Germans in the United States, or people of German ancestry. All right, so let's go then to this. Is basically what we were talking about, this idea of total war. And if you're going to have a total war in a democracy, who's going to manage the total war? What government? We talked about this in World War One.
The federal government?
The federal government, exactly. So we saw that the federal government took on powers that it never had before during World War One, which were mostly powers of persuasion. But in World War Two, we saw the United States essentially take control of the economy, and also to enforce its its policy using um, I forget what they call it now, rationing. Okay. So now here's the thing that the United States government started to tell private industry, okay, we need you to build this and we need you to build this much. Okay. So the United States government tells, say Ford or GM, okay, we need you to make 100,000 airplanes, right? And then the industry does do that. They hire people and they start producing these things, right? And they don't mind the fact that the government is actually telling them what to do, even though the government's supposed to be laissez-faire, hands off, right? But the reason why they don't mind is because they weren't making anything. They were in depression, right? And not only that, the United States pays well, okay? This was a great opportunity for them. And one of the things that you'll notice when you read that book, the stories in that book, the Good War, is that there was one person in particular who got a job in a war industry factory, who was just thrilled that the United States was at war because she was able to afford to buy a refrigerator, right? That she couldn't do that before. So she was happy there was a war. You guys get what I'm saying? Okay. At any rate, the United States takes control of the economy, and then they take control of the American attitude, essentially. And they do that in the same way in World War II as they did in World War I. So let's take a look at a couple of these propaganda posters. Let's look at this one first. What do we see here?
So we see like
Hitler and Asia coming after
Hitler,
the U.S.
It's
yeah,
Tojo, right? Hitler and Tojo. They look like they're happy people.
no, it's like angry and to cause like fear and anxiety.
Exactly. They're very threatening people. And what are they threatening? I mean, it's not like it's nuanced in any way. What does it say? Our homes, you can see the picture of them on the bottom here. Our homes are in danger now. See our homes down here? They're in danger now. And so what do we need to do? Keep them firing, right? And so what that does is it instills this sense of fear in the people of the United States, but at the same time, it also creates a sense of unity, right? You follow what I'm saying? So this is not, in some ways, it's not different from what Hitler did in Germany by declaring the Jews to be an enemy, right? I'm not saying that the United States government was anti-Semitic or racist. What I'm saying is that they use the same human propensity to create unity in America, right? That unity is created. What defines us as Americans? Our enemies. Our enemies are what defines us, right? You follow what I'm saying here? Okay, and let's take a look at this one then, down here, right? What do we see here? What are these things?
Those are snakes, like
Snakes.
saying that
It's a Nazi
Germany are
snake.
snakes. Yeah.
Germany and Japan.
Is that Asia? Yeah, Japan.
What about the frog? I don't know either. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I can't tell.
I don't know what the frog is, but at any rate, the point here is that what are we doing? What are you supposed to do with snakes?
Stomp them out.
Stomp them out. You're not supposed to like snakes. You're not supposed to care about snakes. You're supposed to kill them, right? Okay, so why do you think we're portraying the Germans and the Japanese as snakes?
Because we're not supposed to like them.
Dehumanize them?
So we can-
Yeah.
So we can kill them, just like we saw in World War I with the Germans being guerrillas, right? They were guerrillas in World War I, but now in World War II they're snakes. So that's a kind of a miracle of biology. But at any rate, the point here is it's a matter of dehumanization, so that you can instill hatred, right? You're really not supposed to hate other people, but you can hate snakes. You know what I'm saying? Are you with me? Questions, comments? Okay. So I mean, and that's really the bottom line in war, right? The bottom line in war is that you have to force people to believe that they hate other people, And the way that you do that is to make those other people not people.